A lovely wife. I don't know where I met Leah. It was a long time ago, and my memory is not very good, but I think I met her first in a big old town close to the Rhine in Germany. She said to me that she came from an old family, but I never knew the family. Name of the girl who was my friend, my companion in my studies, and later my wife. Why did I never find out about her family name? Maybe because she did not want me to know. But I cannot remember. I remember one thing very well. Leah was tall and slim later. At the end, she was very thin. How can I put it into words? Her quiet aristocratic movements or the odd softness of her footsteps. If she entered my office, I only knew she was there when I heard her voice or when she placed her white hand on my shoulder. She had a lovely face, but it was not a classical type of beauty. There was something odd about it I have frequently attempted to comprehend. Was it her pure white complexion or her thick black locks? I gazed at her long, delicate nose many times. It was perfect. I gazed at her sweet mouth, how soft and red it was. And when she smiled, her teeth were white. Then I stared into her eyes. They were a lot bigger than usual. Eyes at times when she was excited. They looked just like a deer's eyes. They were black, with long black eyelashes and black eyebrows. But as I stared into them, I found that they had an odd expression. I pondered it for numerous hours, sometimes all night. What was in those eyes? I wanted to find out many times. I thought I nearly had the solution, but then it was gone. Leah was extremely determined. She was always quiet and calm, but her determination was visible in her eyes. It glowed like a horrible energy, and sometimes it used to scare him. Leah was extremely clever. She was perfect at Latin and Greek, and she was well versed in many other languages. She never erred. She was also a science and mathematics student when we got married for the first time. Used to take her help with my studies, and we would work together. But when she passed away, I was alone without her. I was like a child in the dark when she first got sick. She did not visit me as frequently as before she lost weight, and her skin turned pale and translucent. When I realized that she was dying, I felt desperate. Leah fought death with all her might. To live, she was determined. I watched in agony as she struggled for life. I knew she loved me, but I only understood how much she loved me now that she was dying. She held my hands and said that she was devoted to me. I cannot talk about it now, but let me say that her love for me was part of her determination to live on the night she died. She suddenly got out of bed and cried, "Oh God, must I die? Must I lose my struggle with death? No, I cannot die like this." But my beautiful Lee passed away. I was so gloomy. Couldn't remain in the old city near the Rhine for a few months. I was on the road. Then I purchased an old ABY in a remote corner of England. This gloomy, melancholic place reflected my sentiments of loneliness, but I beautified it with lovely colored curtains, rugs, and trophies. I told myself, maybe the bright colors will provide me with a sense of happiness. They didn't, though. I started drinking too much, but I don't want to talk about that period of my life. I will say no more than this. That one day, I married. Lady Rowena Trevanian of Train Me New Wife had blonde hair and blue eyes. She was very different from my first wife. But how could I ever forget Leah? I took Lady Rowena to a room far up in the tower of the Abbey, where we resided during the first month of our wedding. The room was extremely big, with a huge window constructed of glass from Venice. The ceiling was tall like in a church, and in the middle there was a large gold chandelier. There were East sofas and an Indian bed on the walls, were long tapestry. Like carpets with gold-made designs, the tapestries swayed whenever the wind blew. My wife feared me because I used to be sad and depressed. She didn't love me very much and avoided me, but I liked it. I always remembered Leamy Lovely. Leah dead in the tomb occasionally. In my dreams, I cried out for her at the nighttime. I pictured that maybe my affection for her might return her tome at the start of the second month, lady. Rowena fell ill. She slept quite poorly and explained to me she could hear noises and actions in the tower. You have a fever. I said you're imagining things. She improved, but afterward she went back to bed with a second sickness worse than the first. The physicians could not comprehend it. Once more, Rowena started hearing small sounds and movements in the bedroom, and they terrorized her only night in late September. She woke up. Suddenly, I was sitting on a couch beside Herb. She whispered to me that she could hear sounds and see movements, and there was a terrified look on her pinched face. But I didn't see and hear anything. It's the wind. It told her you can notice the tapestry swaying in the wind, but she had a deathly white look of fear, and she almost fainted. I recalled there was some wine on the table on the other side of the room, so I walked through the light of the chandelier, and a strange occurrence took place. I felt something intangible pass me, and on the carpet I had a shadow, nearly the shadow of shadow. I thought I would say nothing to Rowena. I filled a glass of wine and handed it to her. Then I sat on the sofa and observed her. After a while, I heard very quiet footsteps on the carpet approaching the bed. A split second later, since Rowena was just going to drink the wine, I saw, or maybe I dreamed, that I saw 3 or 4 large drops of a bright red liquid fall into the glass. Rowena did not see it. She drank the wine, and I said nothing, because I thought it was only my imagination. After this, Rowena's health got much worse, and on the 3rd night, Shettied, her servants, prepared her for the tomb, then covered her with a sheet. The next night, I sat alone with her body in the bedroom. Strange forms and shadows moved around me. I glanced anxiously into the darkness, corners at the shifting tapestries, and I felt afraid. Then I glanced at the carpet beneath the chandelier. There was no shadow there, and I felt better when I glanced at Rowena on the bed. Sad recollections of Lee, the only woman I ever loved, returned to me. It was perhaps about midnight when I heard a sound. It was soft but distinct, and it awoke me from my dreams. I believed it was from the bed. I listened in terror, but I did not hear it. Again, I examined Rowena closely for any sign of life. She was not moving, but I kept on looking at her. Minutes passed. Then I saw a little color in Rowena's face. My heart stopped in horror. I could not move when I realized that Rowena was not dead. I attempted to revive her, but soon the color faded from her cheeks. Her face resembled marble once more, and her lips were pinched with the ghastly look of death. When her body was cold and stiff, I collapsed onto the sofa and dreamed about Leah. An hour later, I heard the same noise as before. I listened. Yes, there it was again. A sigh from Thebes. I rushed over and saw quite clearly that her lips were quivering. Then they parted, revealing her shining teeth. I thought I was going mad. There was a pink hue on her cheeks and neck. Her body was warming up again, and her heart was beating. A little lady Rowena was alive. I did all that I could to resuscitate her. Then all of a sudden, her color disappeared. Her heart ceased, and her body became cold and rigid. I sat down and started thinking about Lee again for the third time. There was a noise from the bed. But why must I relive the horrors of that night again? I attempted to revive Rowena and then a time. Every time she struggled with an invisible force, and every time her body altered, I do not know how, but she appeared different. It was almost dawn when she moved again. I was sitting on the sofa tired, but Rowena's body moved with greater energy than previously. Her color, returned signs of life transformed her. Her eyes were closed, but she appeared alive. Then she suddenly got out of bed and slowly walked to the middle of the room like she was walking in her sleep. Did not tremble. I did not move. I was as cold and still as stone frozen. By what I saw as I stared at her, my head full of wild thoughts was, Rowena really alive? Could I really see her blonde hair and blue eyes? Why wasn't I certain? I couldn't see her mouth very well, but her cheeks were like pink roses, weren't they? Rowena's cheeks, but wasn't she tall, smaller than? Before I was filled with a kind of madness, I ran to her, but she moved away. Then I saw her long hair moving in the wind. It was blacker than the black of midnight, and now slowly her eyes opened. I shouted like Ahmed Man. These are the black eyes of my lost. Love the eyes of Leah English. 5-day story. The voiceover. In this video is provided by English 5 days. Copying or re-uploading is completely prohibited. Further action will be taken immediately we detect without any form of pre-notice.